All right, so good evening, everybody. This is Jason, Inked Up Runner here, going a little bit further away than I normally do. I'm fortunate enough to talk to Taggart VanEtten. For most of you who know who Taggart is, Taggart owns the 100-mile treadmill record and really blazed it at Tunnel Hill with a super strong time. And so thank you, Taggart, for talking to me. It's great to have you on.
It's my pleasure to be here, Jason. Let's do this.
Let's do it. All right.
Let's do
it. So we're going to go a different direction. I think everybody knows your successes that you had. I think let's really dive into kind of what's happened here recently for you. You've had some setbacks. I don't know where you want to start. We can maybe start at 6 days in the dome. You kind of had some big goals going into that. And I think you kind of had some setbacks there. So let's dive straight into 6 days in the dome. Let's break that down a little bit.
Yeah, I'll tell you, the last two races have been very humbling considering when you go up the first two. But yeah, 6 days. Oh, wow. It was 6 weeks after my treadmill world record, which typically isn't ideal, but normally that event is held in August, but this year it was pushed to June. I had already planned the date of the treadmill run, and I figured my body could recover quick enough to have a good run at 6 days. I got there the day before, as usual. We did a little walk through the whole track. It's so huge inside there. Like if you're within driving distance of 6 days and you don't have a spring or summer ultra, you should definitely go there to run for 24 or 48 hours, because it's just breathtaking to walk in there for the first time. It's nuts. Oh, just 6 days. I wanted to go get the sub 11. I still believe I've got the sub 11 in my legs, but unfortunately that day, a couple complications came up that I just wasn't prepared for.
So when we're talking about 6 days in the dome, I had I talked to Bob Hearn, who also has ran 6 days in the dome, and we were talking a little bit about that, and I kind of was recapping a little bit about what you talked about in the adventure jogger, about some of the trying to maneuver around people who are kind of in your way. I don't really want to say in your way, but kind of in your pathway of going. I know that was something that kind of hindered you a little bit. Going into that, how, I guess my question is, what do you think your biggest miss was?
So I think I had three big misses. There was three. I would say the first big miss was I turned around too fast after the treadmill, which, when you're fit and you're confident and you're 25 and you can recover quickly, I mean, it's just hard to be like, nah, I'm not going to do that after all. So that's probably my first one. I still had a little, even though I couldn't feel it in my legs, I think on the very molecular cell level, I think my legs were still trying to recover while I'm still trying to get fit. So on the very deep inside of me, I still wasn't back at 100%, probably. I'll never find out. Another reason number two, it was just a little crowded. That's something you gotta think about when you sign up for something like the Dome. It could be crowded, but if I were to go to an outdoor track meet where it's a 24-hour invitational, I got to deal with wind, rain. It's hot or it's cold there. So basically you're just picking like, hey, do I want to deal with the crowd or do I want to deal with the weather? So that's kind of something that that really opened my eyes up there. And I would say the third reason, which is I'd say the other two were probably 30-30. That's 60%. I'd say 40% was I wasn't prepared for the dryness of the dome. The dome is it's kept at like 50, 55 degrees, but the humidity is only 20%. And with me coming from Illinois, where I'm used to high humidity year round, I fuel based off of I fuel my liquids and hydration based off of that type of humidity. And I went in there, and when I was pulling out and I was seeing the doctor, my skin was bone dry because I wasn't sweating and I wasn't taking in enough fluids for the dryness of the climate of the dome.
Right. So before I move on to the next question, I have to tell you this. So I'm in a group chat with a bunch of friends, and every time we hear you on a podcast, we love how confident you are. Like you're like, look, I got this. I can do it. Nothing's going to stand in my way. It was like so cool listening to you or seeing your 6 days in the dome post, because you basically, you go through everything that happened and you put, I will get the sub 11,
Mhm.
and it was so cool to see. So I guess my question is, looking at 6 days in the dome in a race like that, how do you prepare? So how would you prepare differently for something of that nature? You talk about the low humidity. I'm in Tennessee. The humidity here, it's dripping all the time. I mean, the heat index today was like 107. So you know how would you prepare differently living in an environment that's high humidity and then having to go somewhere that has low humidity?
Well, I've got two answers to that question, and those two answers I learned about a week after the dome. I've got a treadmill in a spare bedroom, and now whenever I'm preparing for a race in the dome or a drier state, if and when I go to Desert Solstice, I have a pretty good dehumidifier I purchased. So I'm gonna basically just kind of lock tight the room. Still have the AC come in, obviously, but try to pull out as much humidity as possible when I'm doing my long runs, and just kind of any other run, just try to make it as dry in there. And then next year, if I return to the dome for 100 miles or 24 hours, it's about 3.5 hours north of me. So I can probably get up there for 2 different weekends to do like back-to-back long runs around that place. I think it's only like $4 or $5 to get into for the whole day.
Yeah.
So all I got to do is go there and get a hotel room and just do 2 big weekends, maybe like 8 weeks out, maybe 1 month out, just to kind of test my fluids and all that. So I know most people don't have that if they're don't have that accessibility, but I'm only 3.5 hours from Milwaukee, so that's not terrible for me to do for a long weekend.
Yeah, and that makes sense now, hearing you talk about it, because it's funny because it's very similar to how you would prepare for a mountain race such as like
Yeah.
Hard Rock,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
Because
For
you
sure.
hear a lot of people get up to Hard Rock a couple of weeks early just to
Hmm.
get themselves acclimated to that, to the altitude and whatnot. So that makes a lot of sense. So I guess my question is, when you're looking at 6 days in the dome, from a fueling standpoint, what would you do different from a fueling standpoint? Because I was reading a little bit about how you did, you kind of was talking about your fueling a little bit. So what would you do differently with the fueling part?
So I'm very blessed, honestly, because I can take in a lot of carbohydrate now, or I can take upwards of 80 grams, which is more than I think most people can. So I don't think that's an issue. I don't think my salt or my electrolyte was an issue. I think it was just the lack of fluids I was taking. So next year, if I go up again and try to get the sub 11, or like I said, go for 24 hours, I'm going to carry a waste bottle just to where I can be a little more generous on my drinking. And instead of relying on my crew every mile to step out to lane 3 one more extra time, as I'm going around even more people, I'll have that waste bottle to where I can take as long as a swig as I want to keep hydrated. So, but I'm going to get some testing done this fall as far as like VO2 max and different fuels I'm burning per hour, how much liquid I'm losing, and all that. So I'm taking all those steps right now to really increase my level to understand my body and what it needs for nutrition wise in an ultra.
That makes sense too. I think one thing that I was listening to you when you were talking about how you were trying to pass people and having to try to get the time in, you hadn't really thought about that from a timing standpoint. From a training standpoint, it's not exactly like you're running around a lot of people. Of course, you could get a bunch of slow friends standing around you and trying to run around them. But how do you calculate that kind of timing? Because you really can't prepare how many people is going to be on the track. And so, like, how do you calculate how much extra time you need to try to get around it to hit that threshold of sub 11?
I think that's something you just gotta practice at races. It's not like I can go to my local track here and there'll be 50 people out there and I can go run around them for 6 hours. Yeah, that's just something that I have lack of experience that, guys and gals like Camille, Zach, and all them have been doing for this long time. And they know how to, go around people, how to deal with the crowd. And this was just it was my first timed event in ultra. But yeah, that I really don't have an answer for you on that one other than just more experience racing on the track like that.
Well, it's funny because I was like, should I ask that question? Because, after I interviewed Bob Hearn is the most strategic numbers guy I've ever met in my life. And I was like, I don't know if Taggart, crunching numbers like Bob is, when he was talking about all the different things that he had to, do to get, to push through Ball State and get that 4-day finish. So, well, I do hope you go back because I do think you can get it. Based off of just knowing and seeing, how well you did at least the first part of it before you had to pull back. And then, I think just like you said, it's just like any other race. You kind of have to get out there, kind of have to maybe fail to see what you have to do to succeed. Because I've never done a track race. I don't think I'll ever do a track race. I don't have the, running on the treadmill drives me crazy. So I don't see how you ran 100 miles on a treadmill. It'd probably take me 4 days to run 100 miles on a treadmill. So all right. So we just got done talking about 6 days in the dome. Your next race was the Badger Trail 100, and
yeah.
So I'm not super familiar with that race. So where is that race at, and what's the terrain like? Kind of give us a little bit of background on that race a little bit, and why you chose it. Sorry.
So I think before we talk about Badger Trail, I think we should talk about the few weeks after the dome and before the Badger Trail.
Okay.
I was going through the first time, and probably since my early college days, just a very tough post race depression, just trying to just figure out, I had this big build up and this huge letdown on June 19th, and I wasn't really for sure what I wanted to do. I honestly felt more pressure after the race than I did before the race. I had waited until Wednesday to make a statement about what I was going to do next because I just was not in the right headspace to figure out. And I had so many people who were just, that were just amazing as far as reaching out to me afterwards. And so many people were wondering what's next. And for the first time in my life, I never experienced that many, individuals who asked me. And I had originally planned on, and I should have done an Ironman triathlon in August. I come from a triathlon background, but I looked at that as like the dessert to like a sub 11. I was just going to spend my summer basically swimming and cycling, doing a little bit of running. And this is probably my one regret of the summer is not doing the Ironman. I think it's next weekend or something like that. But I had just decided that, unfortunately I didn't deserve it, which whether I did or didn't, I don't know. I can always do it next summer again. So that's probably my main regret, was not going fulfilling and finishing the Ironman. But the few weeks after the dome and before Badger, I was just going back and forth. And then I started running really well again pretty quickly. It's probably a little bit of a mistake on my part, but I'm 25. I'm young. I'm still new into this. Then I found the Badger Trail, and I can explain the course like that here in a second. I talked to some of my close friends, and some were for it, some were against it. I made it to 100K at the dome, so it's not like I went the full. It's not like I made the 80, 90 miles and pulled out. So I still had something left in my legs. When Badger Trail came up, the guy who runs the race, Scott Coomer, he's a Chicago-based guy. It's pretty much like a summer version of Tunnel Hill. It's an out 33 miles one way, back 33 miles one way, and then you finish, and it's like 101 miles. It's on a rail trail, goes through all these little towns. It's pretty much my type of race. It's covered by trees. There's some hot sections. There's some cooler sections. And I think of the 100-mile start, I think there was like 400 people. Then they had a 100K. Then they had a marathon and a half marathon. Like they had all these different races. I mean, there were a lot of
Wow.
people on. Yeah, yeah. There were a lot of people on course and all that good stuff. And I just thought, well, I feel fit. I felt the need, like I needed to redeem myself after the dome. Again, that's probably another mistake I made on my part. It's something that I got to learn. I'll tell you, it's better I learn it now at 25 than at 32 when I'm nearing the final years of my career, rather than right at the beginning when I can recover a little quicker. But yeah, it was pretty much like a 10-day out decision. I was waiting on weather. I didn't want it to be one of those hot Midwestern summer days where it was going to be 90 plus all day. I think the highest it got was like 82, which is warm, but it's not hot.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's just it's a nice little rail trail course where it's a high participant rate from the Chicago area, because it's right between Chicago and Madison, I believe. It starts in Illinois, it goes to Wisconsin, comes back to Illinois, and ends in Wisconsin. So it's kind of cool doing that.
Cool. So you you talked a little bit about right after the dome, and that was one thing. I remember listening to you on Jamil's show right after that, going a little bit about, talking about that, and then him trying to, figure out what you were going to do next, and was, kind of pressing you to say, hey, what are you doing next? And you were kind of up in the air then about what you were doing next. And you had talked about, doing the triathlon and stuff. And so you decided to jump into this Badger race. And you said it's a lot like Tunnel Hill. I've ran Tunnel Hill, so I'm familiar with that type of course. So, going into that, how did you? I guess obviously you felt like you had a pretty good shot at doing pretty well at it.
Yeah.
So anyway, so how did it go? Like, just how did it go? You want to break down?
Yeah.
How it started for you? Yeah.
So it went pretty well all day up until about 60 miles. I hit a low point around 60. I actually, for the first time, sat down in a chair, and then I sat down for probably 5 minutes, and I just told myself, I'm like, I'm going through a low. I'm like, this is a hot ultra. Like this is what you see, on YouTube and all that, is these guys in these warm races, or these gals at these bigger races where they're so long and all that. I said I just got to get through this. One thing I kind of underestimated here, which a lot of people, it's probably hard to believe on this one, because I do take a lot of, is I underestimated my salt intake. I can take in a lot of salt, and I'm sponsored by Salt Stick. They're great. And during my treadmill run, people were like surprised by the amount of fast chews and caps I was taking. I'm like, just because I felt like I needed it. And for the first time, I felt like I actually needed more salt because of how hot it was. Leading into the Badger Trail, I had ran hot, very hot long runs outside on the track. I've done a few on the treadmill where I didn't have the air on in the house, so it probably got up around like 80 degrees in here. I had just kind of underestimated the salt intake on that one. But I'll tell you, the people at the aid stations that race were great. I'd be 100 feet back. Some guy would come running up to me and take my hat. He'd put ice in it. They'd come run up to me, bring me half a banana to eat. Unfortunately, at that race, my crew of my three best friends couldn't be there. All three of them were busy that weekend. So my mom, God bless her, came and crewed me. And let me tell you, I love my mom dearly with all my heart, but she's not the best crew person to have. I came up to her at the first cruise spot, and she's like taking pictures of me to send to my aunts. And I'm like, hey, do you think you could give me these gels in this bottle? And she's like, oh, okay, hang on. I'm just like, oh, it's going to be one of those days. And I'm like, just be patient with her. You're just here to have fun. You're just here to finish this race. But
right.
Thankfully, the people at the aid stations were helping her out quite a bit. I'd come in and hand them my hat. They, like I said, they do ice cubes. They'd fill my bottle. And finally, at the aid stations, my mom just gave them basically just gave them my gels and everything, and they were handing it to me as I went through. So I'll tell you, it was fun. Like I said, I hit a really low spot around 60, and from 60 to about 75, I put in probably the fastest running of the day. When you're on a high in an ultra, you don't want to go all out, but at the same time, I was running under 7 minute pace, and I'm young, but I'm experienced enough to know that when I'm at that high, I'm not going to feel any better. So like I might as well ride it out as long as I can.
Right.
And then, unfortunately, when I made the second turnaround around that 70, I think it's between 70 and 73 mile mark to go back to the finish, 33 miles or six. Well, anyway, I had 33 miles to go to the finish, and I started feeling something in my knee clicking. It was in my left knee, and I was like, well, I said, it like wasn't really hurting me by all means, but it just it felt funny, like hearing that click in my knee every few steps. And then finally, I reached the 87-mile mark, which was ran by a local running group, the Central Illinois Trail Runners. And I came up on a guy who was very experienced, and he ran next to me during my treadmill run. And I said, hey, my knee hurts and my gait's off. He said he could tell that my gait cycle was off when I ran up. I said, what do you think I should do? And he said, well, he helped me out a little bit. And he said, well, how about we fast walk for 5 minutes. And then after 5 minutes, you start to jog. So him and I really fast walk for a little bit. And I tried to jog again. And it wasn't feeling great when I was jogging. And it was there when I had to make a tough decision. I could have probably walked my way through the last 13 miles of that race and finished under 13 hours. I was on pace between 12:15 and 12:25, or I could just call it and not risk getting injured. And I do regret not finishing the race, but I'll tell you, I'm glad I'm back running right now. And I think if I would have finished, there would have been a chance to where it would have affected my fall schedule negatively.
So have you had issues with that knee clicking?
No, it's just something that I felt during the race. I took 8 days off and I started running again this week, and I feel fine. I just think it probably just a little bit of overuse. Maybe I was striking wrong at one part during the race. I'm not 100% sure. It's just something that came up and it felt funny. And thankfully, I'll knock on wood right now, I haven't had a major injury, or anything hurt on me since I've been running ultra. And that's something I want to keep doing. I don't want to be sidelined for a few weeks because of a niggle. So yeah, it's just something that during a training run, if I felt, I would stop immediately. And I was there to race. I was there to win, set a course record. But unfortunately, I had to look at the bigger picture of things and pull out at mile 87, which I think maybe if I was at mile 95, I would have finished it. But just being that 13 miles out is tough.
Yeah. Well, I mean, 13 miles is still a pretty good clip out.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, at least for that, the average runner, right? Not for an ultra runner. I mean, 13 miles for an ultra runner is, kind of like a drop in the bucket, but it's still 13 miles. And at your intensity is a lot different than my intensity, which, I'm extremely slow. So it's like, but you had to make the right choice. And I think that's smart, because it's like, I myself have some health issues, and I've had to make some hard decisions during my 100-mile training where I've had some stuff come up, and I was like, you know what, I need to reel it back a little bit just so I can make it to race day. And I think you realize that you've got some bigger goals that you're wanting to accomplish. And so you realize that the best thing to do was to pull the plug so that you could live to fight another day. Is that pretty fair?
Yeah, I think that's really fair. But I'll tell you, I'm glad I went because now I've got experience in a very dry climate ultra at 6 days in the dome, and now I've got experience in a decently warm high humidity ultra at the Badger Trail. So I don't look at both my DNFs as failures. I look at them as like a learning experience. As far as would I suggest to someone or myself to try that again, have a really bad race, and then 6 weeks later try to turn around with something equally as big as 100 on top of a 100. I probably won't do that again. I'll tell you, I had thoughts of trying to run a really fast 10K, and I wish I probably would have done that, but is what it is. I'm just like I said, I'm here to learn, and I'm here to go all out every single race until I can't. So it's just something that it's something that I have to figure out on my own, and I did that day.
That's really cool. So after going through that, and I guess maybe we can look ahead a little bit if that's okay. It looks like I made a few notes just so I could keep everything on track here. It looks like your next big race is Hennepin, right? The 50 miler.
Yes, Hennepin. Yes, I'm gonna.
Hennepin.
Yeah. I would say that race is penciled in right now. It can be a race. It can be there. I'm going to decide probably the middle of September for sure if I want to be there. I'm going to do a little bit more speed work these next few weeks and decide if I'm really ready for a fast 50 or not. But I'm prepared to go there and run quick for 50 miles. All of my ultras have been 100 milers, so I'm excited to finally get a little bit of speed, I guess if you want to call it speed, in my legs, and try to go for 50 there on October 2nd.
So before I talk about any more of your races, I have to ask you this. So a really fast 100-mile race is the Yeti 100, right? It's a race that I've DNF'd it twice, and I'm going back hopefully this year to finish it. This is my third year going after it. Mm-hmm. But it's on a very, I think the whole course maybe has 3,000 feet of gain for 100 miles. And it's on a gravelly trail. It's on the Creeper Trail. And I was thinking, I was funny because last year I was running it, and Patrick Reagan was there running it. And I was thinking, this race is perfect for anybody that likes these flat, fast courses. And have you ever even looked at that race or thought of even running it?
I'll be completely honest. I don't know a lot of the ultras out there still. I still like, it was up until a few weeks ago, I thought UTMB and Hard Rock were the same race. I didn't even know they were separate races. I'll have to I'll definitely after this interview have to look it up and talk to Patrick about that. Him and I are pretty good buddies. Patrick's actually been a great mentor to me. Patrick, Camille, and Corey Waltering, they've all three kind of just brought me under their wing for any questions I've had and all that. So yeah, I'll definitely have to talk to him about Yeti.
Yeah, it's you basically start at the top of a mountain. Mm-hmm. You drop, I think, 1,800 feet. So at the way you run, you could probably run like a 30-second mile. And then by the time you get to the bottom, it flattens out. It goes up a little bit, and you basically run up the mountain and then go back. Anyway, it's super fast, and it's Patrick ran it last year. He won it, of course. Because Patrick wins mostly everything he runs in. But anyway, I just thought I'd mention it. And why it's funny you mentioned Corey, because another one of my buddies was talking to me. He's like, you got to ask him about Corey always coming after him all the time, giving him a hard time.
Oh yeah. Corey and I are very good friend of me. So Corey's definitely been a big brother to me. We definitely throw some shade back and forth at each other. Between the two of us and anyone else who's listening, I think Corey's afraid to face off. I think he's afraid to face off with me over an ultra. So.
The gauntlet's been laid down.
Yeah. I definitely think he's scared of me. So.
Well, the thing about it is if you race him, you've got to wear the Speedos like he wears as well.
I don't know about that. I don't know about that, but yeah, I will race him. I will race him anything flat. I'll tell you that. I don't know if I'll go up to a mountain anywhere and race him, but I will race him anywhere flat for now.
Yeah, I don't blame you. He's really strong in the mountains. So,
Hmm.
all right. All right. So Hennepin is funny because here in Tennessee, I've only heard it's been called Hennepin, but Hennepin, I got
Yeah.
that right now. So,
Hmm.
I also noticed on your tentative schedule, you've got Tunnel Hill. Is that one you something you think you definitely are going to do? Or is it another one you think you got kind of got penciled in?
You know, this whole year, I've been thinking Tunnel Hill's penciled in, but recently, um, I feel like I need to go back get my course record at Tunnel Hill. It's pretty much my baby, and I'll be there. I'll be there running the 100. So, yeah, I don't know why I kind of lost myself in thinking I wouldn't go back to Tunnel Hill, but I owe it to Steve Durbin. I owe it to the course. I owe it to the other racers, and it's just like I said, it's fairly close to my house. So I'm gonna go there and I'm gonna try to run a decently quick 100. So
Well, I don't think that'll be a problem for you out there. That's and the great thing about I love the way that course is laid out. The year I did
yes.
it, it was unbelievably cold. I think but you get like an award for Garmin if you run an entire race in below freezing weather. I got that trophy because it never got above 32 the day that I ran it.
Oh man.
And so
Woo.
it started. It started. I think it was 18 degrees, and I actually, believe it or not, I actually got hypothermia at the end. I finished it, but I got hypothermia. Made it back to my car, passed out in my car, and woke up like an hour later. Because first off, I'm super slow. So the time that you ran your 100 miler, I finished my 50 miler in like an hour before it. But I also like blew up and ended up walking like a ton of it. But anyway, it was super cold. It was super cold. But back to what I was saying, I loved how you had that middle section where you finish, right? And
Hmm.
they have all this aid and food there.
Hmm.
It is like it's laid out so perfectly. And
Hmm.
the course is great and Steve is great. And just I would argue Steve Durbin easily one of the best race directors in all of
Oh
race directing.
yeah. Oh definitely.
He just crushes it. Just crushes
Yeah,
it.
he does. He does.
So
Yeah.
so so
Tunnel Hill is a pretty social course with the double out and back on the 100. I didn't realize until I ran Badger when it was an out back and out again, how much I appreciated 12 and a half miles one way or 13 miles one way, because you get to see like the other racers, you get to see other people, you get to, say hi, keep going, you get to see your crew more, and just how that's set up is just a great way to set up an ultra, I think.
oh yeah, and I also forgot to mention the year that I ran it was the year that Zach set the record.
Oh, okay, cool.
So
Sweet.
so like I kept seeing the same guy pass by me like multiple times, right? And I'm like, how is didn't I just see him a little while ago? And of course he's so nice. He runs by and he's like, great job, and he throws his hand up, and I'm like,
Mhm.
I mean, you just see like a flash go by because he's so slipping fast. But yeah, that was the year that he got the course record. But anyway, that's cool. And it seems like you know what you need to do there. You got close, right?
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
so and you're right. Now it's just time to go seal the deal, right? It's like
Yeah.
you got your warm up in. Now it's time
Mhm.
just to close it out. So that's exciting.
Yeah.
I can't wait to see that. Um, so I think the biggest thing I see on your schedule, the most exciting thing, at least is in my opinion, is Desert Solstice.
Mhm.
Um, lots of big folks come out to that race and run it. It's really a place I think to set the kind of, I guess, call your shot, right? I mean,
Mhm.
because there's some big names out there running, and you're
There
going to be
are.
running beside some. You're going to be running beside some. Let's face it, there's going to be some. I mean, I would venture to say some legends out there running,
Mhm.
some old school, high caliber, like Bob Hearn, for example. He was on the 24. He's on the 24-hour team. I know he's going to be out there because I just talked to him about it. So let's talk about that one, because that one you've got kind of a pretty big goal, right? For that one?
I'm gonna go for the 24-hour world record, the 189 miles that day on December 11th. Trust me, it kind of scares me too, going that far in that short amount of time. I'm thinking the same thing you are right now.
I can't even wrap my arm around the concept of that number. And so like, I don't even know where to start, but I'll just start here. How like, how do you prepare to run that fast for that long? Right?
Hopefully I'll have a lot of company the first 12, 13 hours of the day. I'm going to run my race. I've got my race strategy, which I can talk about. I'm going to split the first 100 miles in 12 hours. Giannis did it in 11:57. And then I'm going to see how far I can go for the next 12 hours. I'm going to change socks, change shoes, probably take a little bit of a hot break, maybe try to down a real sandwich, and basically have 12 hours to go 89 miles. So that's kind of my plan, is 7:12s for the first 100, because there's absolutely no way you can increase pace on that. If I were to try to run an average of a 7:36 pace or 7:35, whatever it is, the likelihood there is I would drop off. So I think you have to do it the way he did it, is the first 160 kilometers or 100 miles in 12 hours, and just kind of hold on for as long as you can for the next 12 hours. And, you're going to have to take a little bit of walking breaks. You might have to change shoes even a third time and something like that. So that's, I'm pretty new to it. I'm still pretty new to ultra, but I think that's what Steve Durbin told me before the sub 11. He said that was kind of the beauty, was I didn't know what I was getting into at Tunnel Hill, and I somehow managed to pull out a decent performance. And I really don't know what I'm getting into at 24 hours. I'm not scared by all means. It's going to be what it's going to be at the end of the day, whatever the number is at 8:00 the next day. But I'm going to shoot for the 189. So,
well, I definitely think there's going to be a whole lot of people out there. All eyes are going to be on you. I think, with such a big goal like that, I mean, that's just such a huge number. And I guess back to where we started earlier in the conversation, it's going to be dry out there as well, right? So you're probably going to have some dry conditions out there as well. And I guess you'll be using that training we had talked about earlier, your treadmill, and because right now, running outside in Illinois, you ain't going to get those settings right now.
Yeah. But kind of one thing that's on my side is, honestly, deep down, I think I'm a 24-hour guy rather than a 100-mile guy. I think I've got the temperament for 24 and the patience more than I do for 100. When I'm planning on doing the 7:12s for the first 100 miles up to 24-hour, 7 minutes 12 seconds per mile is a lot slower than 6 minutes and 35, what I need for the sub 11. And so in something like that, I can take longer drinks. I can eat more real food rather than just gels in that time, because I've got that 45 seconds per mile to kind of just kind of soak it in more and relax, and just focus on having a good time out there.
That's great. And I think it's interesting listening to you talk about being more of a 24 guy, right? So I guess is that kind of the direction you see yourself kind of going into these 24-hour style races, kind of like, and I hate to keep referring back to him, but that's kind of like Bob Hearn's thing, is he's like a 24-hour specialist. You got your Greg Armstrong's 24-hour specialist. Is that something you think that's kind of direction you're headed, or?
I want to do all sorts of ultra. I would like to try a 100K one of these years. if I could get a sponsor that would help me out, I'd like to try to go to Spartathlon next year, really, to be honest with you. If I could tell people right now I'm going to Spartathlon next year, I would. But it's not a cheap trip over to Europe. I need someone to help me out with that. I'm really, that's kind of what I would like to shoot for, a Spartathlon. But as far as 24 hours, I'll judge it after this first try, maybe the second try. I don't know what type of ultra racer I am. I still want to get a marathon OTQ for 2024. So maybe after that race, after that marathon, then at the Olympic trials, if I make it there in 2024, then I can really submit myself into the long stuff. But until then, I think I've got a sub 550 in my legs. I don't know if that's going to happen in October or not. I've got a fast 100K in my legs. So definitely before I just say, hey, I'm going to dedicate the rest of my ultra career to 24 hours, I've got some smaller stuff I want to do right now.
Oh, absolutely. And I think, and based off of how you started out, there's no reason why you can't do it. I mean, just looking at your times and whatnot, it's definitely there. So after desert, you got anything lined up?
Nothing in particular. That would definitely be it for the year. I don't know for next year, as just kind of like what I said for 2022. If I can find the financial means to get to Spartathlon, it would be amazing. But at the same time, if I can't, I'm not going to be like soul crushed by it. There's plenty of races in the U.S. to do. There's plenty of marathons, plenty of ultras. I know at some point, I don't know if you know who he is, but Zach Bevin, he has the Strolling Gym course record, 5:04 50 miler. Him and I want to gut out 100K against each other. He's got some speed. I've got some endurance. Him and I are really good buddies, and we would like to go for a fast 100K either sometime this coming year or the next year. One of these days, him and I are going to try to figure out a 100K that we can face off of, which would be cool. So I'm not 100% sure about next year. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, I was following Zach at Strolling Gym this year, and I've ran Strolling Gym before, and that course is no joke. I mean, it's literally everything you hear. First off, Laz literally, spray paints shit talking on the road. And so you're running and like you're reading him talking about how his mother runs this hill, and it's like, and it's the whole course. And plus it's hot as hell, right?
Yeah.
And literally there are jugs of water sitting on the side of the road, like from Kroger. And so like it is a extremely challenging course, and it's Zach's time there was just nothing short of amazing. I mean, just amazing.
Oh yeah, that's I think that's definitely in the top 10 ultra times of all time. I think it's a very underrated time because I don't think a lot of very top end people have heard of the course or completely understand the course. But his 358 or whatever it was there is impressive. I'll tell you that. I on a fast 50-mile course. He probably doesn't want me to put out a number out there, but I won't. But it would be a fast 50 on a road course. Yeah.
Of course it would.
During my treadmill run, it was the same day as Strolling Gym, and I was around the 100K mark, and one of my buddies said, "Hey, Zach got the course record at Strolling Gym," and he told me at the time. I said, "All right, well now it's my turn to finish the day out for us." So yeah, it was great. Yeah, it was great to hear that about him.
Hell yeah, that's awesome. Well, and I think that's the great thing about ultra races is you have all kinds of different flavors for you. You have your mountain runs, you have your tunnel hills, you have your strolling gyms, right? And all of them are uniquely different, and there's all sorts of different things out there. So I guess that's it. I don't know if I have anything else really to get into it with you. I think we really have covered a whole lot. It's really interesting listening to you talk about, listening to you talk about something, like, you always hear people talk about their successes and, doing well. And, winning the race or setting the course record or doing this and doing that. And it was really great listening to somebody with your skill set and your talent talk about hitting setbacks, because it goes to show you that everybody has setbacks and hits setbacks.
Mm-hmm.
And what's really cool is listening to how you have taken these setbacks and you basically are using them as a learning experience to get back out there and accomplish these goals that you really want to get done.
Yeah. Definitely, for sure. It was a year ago on August 8th, I moved out of my parents' house and kind of got my first real job. And I was really doing a lot of reflection a few days ago, because it was right when I first started my training for Tunnel Hill last year. And, I didn't know what an ultra marathon was. Nobody knew who I was, and just the roller coaster of excitement of how just the past year has been, I'm so grateful for it, for Tunnel Hill and then the treadmill and then these two DNFs. If you would have told me a year ago I'd be where I'm at right now, I wouldn't believe you. So it's definitely been a fun ride, and I'm definitely ready for a good race. I think I'm deserving for a good race, but I'm also prepared to understand now how I take the bad races from, just from these ultras. So
cool. Well, and I think that's great. Well, I really appreciate it, Taggart. It's rare to get to, for me to get to talk to, to somebody at, that is at your skill set. And I just really appreciate the opportunity to speak with you tonight and everything. And, I wish you the best of luck. So, good luck, and we'll be talking to you soon. Okay.
Okay. It's no problem. I'm just a PE teacher in Central Illinois. So I'm just a nobody. So thank you though. I appreciate those kind words.
All right. Thank you.